Hey everyone, happy Monday. While I am checking to make sure the audio is clear on my end, do me a favor. If you're new, let me know where you're tapping in from. I see one person already did. I'm just going to check the audio and then I'm coming right in to get started. How come this doesn't say live? Okay, what's going on? No, that's yesterday. Can you guys hear me? Can someone please let me know if you hear me? Because it's not showing up live on my end. Okay, now it's showing up live. Okay, now I hear me. Perfect. Okay, perfect. That's weird. I saw the thumbnail, but it didn't have live next to it. And that was the first time that happened. Hey, my gemstones. What's up, Gym Nation? Hope you had a good Monday, a great weekend. For those of you that weren't here yesterday, can you believe it? Today is day 30. Day 30, dirty 30 of lives. Oh my gosh. Absolutely, absolutely shocking to me. It's weird. Somebody asked me in one of the comments what was on my what lip stuff was I wearing? I don't know. I have just like lots of lip glosses. Most of my lipsticks are like neutral browns, deep reds, and they're by MAC. And then my lip glosses, this is like a Fenty Heat, and it's a chocolate color. And this is a Kosas, and it's a neutral color. And I keep those right here, so it's probably one of those. But anyway, let's go ahead and say hi to some of the people, and then we'll get into it. See who was here first. Alberta tapped in first. Hey, Alberta, good to see you. LaRonda came up second. Okay, let's see who made the top three. I see who made the top three. Hey, LaRonda. And of course, Moni. Moni is here and ready to go. Good to see you. Hey, Shafar Mode. Or Shafar Maid. Shafar Maid from Homewood, Illinois. Welcome. Welcome to Gym Nation. Hey, Pamela. Hey, cousin Casper. Inside joke. Casper 330's in the building. The ABX girl. Good to see you. Hey, WM. Good to see you. LP Lions. Oh, thank you. Good to know it was loud and clear. I've been there before where I've been on live and the mic was shut off on the computer and I had no idea. So anyway, I always just like to double check before we get started. Yvonne Denise is tapping in as well. Hey, Mari. And did I say, yeah. Okay, good. So as I mentioned, today is day 30. Whoo, child. It has been a ride. It has been a good ride. It has been more than I could have ever imagined. I am super happy for this community. I am super happy for the comments that I continually receive every day. So I don't get to check through all the comments every day, but I try to just go peek at some. And so many people have been so inspiring, and it makes me just want to keep going. And so once again, I thank each and every one of you, especially my OG gymnasian that keeps coming back time after time, day after day. And I know, time is valuable. So I appreciate you taking the time to come and just, build together. And so today is a topic. Well, first, let me go back. Let me, do the housekeeping stuff. I always, introduce myself 20 minutes in. So let me start off there. But I know most of you. That's how come I kind of want to wait. So let's just talk about what today's topic is. Today's topic is all about culture shock, the truth about being Black and abroad. Now, culture shock can affect anyone from any race, from any demographic. Culture shock is what I experienced when I went away to college for the first time. And although it was the college that I wanted to go to, it was just a whole new world with a whole lot of new responsibilities and meeting people from all over the world. There was a sense of culture shock, so much so that I was home every weekend. Now, I lived in New York. I went to college in DC. The one thing I will give Grump credit for, there used to be an airline that he owned. Used to be like $49. If you caught the special, you could get a $49 flight round trip. During the holidays, it might have been $80 round trip if you flew during, high season. And then there was always somebody driving back. New York had a big presence at Howard. And so every weekend, I was trying to find a way to come back home. And so I totally understand culture shock. Not so much from a travel perspective, like that's not my testimony, but I have been around people. I have been on vacation with people. I have experienced culture shock till this day. And this is a no judgment zone area. Culture shock, I believe, is one of the biggest issues that we are going to face as it relates to this stay ready movement. We're going to have to be nimble, even if it's not meaning, like I said, moving abroad. It could be moving to another town. It could be moving to another state. It could be building community with our families, multi-generational homes. All of that could lead to some form of culture shock. And even with some of the comments that I've seen across my social media platforms, it is still very prevalent in our community to experience that, but not only experience it, let it hinder us from making moves in the future. And so we cannot stay ready if we don't have the tools to overcome all of these type of objectives and issues and challenges that we're going to face. All of the issues and challenges are not coming from someplace else, the other side. Some of those are coming from within. And so I wanted today's topic to really speak to that, because it's, like I said, it's something that I see and I know is going to, stop some of us making moves, not only because of our issues, but because we have family members who may suffer through some of these issues. So we're going to get into more about the whole topic of culture shock. I actually experience a lot of reverse culture shock. And we'll talk about that on another day. But reverse culture shock is me coming back home after being in bliss someplace else abroad for whatever amount of time, and then having to come back. And so that is a thing too, and it's real. And so that's the type of shock that I experience, is reverse culture shock. And did you guys get to see, well, you're checking out the Wordle. I love a good word cloud. It's an easy way to tell a story. It's an easy way to provide a definition. It's simply a collection of words, basically, and they're all, depicted in different sizes. And usually the bigger and bolder ones are the ones that appear more often, are the words that mostly align or mostly define what the subject is. So like in this particular word cloud, it's culture shock, and you'll see a whole lot of different um, references and explanations. I'm trying to get to it. Hold on one second. So you'll see, horror, ethnic, inappropriate, spirituality, uncomfortable, um, cultural. Let's do some of the bigger ones: surprise, bizarre, exotic, people, right? And so these are all direct reasons why people experience culture shock. And so let's get into the actual topic and introduction. Let me introduce myself first. Okay, welcome back to everyone who's been here before, who's already been part of the Gym Nation. I totally appreciate you. Like I said earlier, this is the 30th day of lives, consecutive days of lives, where we're talking all things related to staying ready so we don't have to get ready as a culture when the changing of the guard happens. A lot of the content is related to either being prepared to making a move, rather that's a move internationally or domestically. But if you're interested in catching up, if you're new here, all of the lives are contained in one place. It's the Stay Ready playlist, which you can find on the homepage of the channel. My name is Kim, aka Kim with the Gems. I am the founder and creator of Black Travel and Culture Community. We are going on 8 years old in February of 2025. And I've been a proponent of educating, informing, creating community to help support us in the Black travel movement. And so we've hosted everything from live events with experts and executives in the travel space to give us those gems, to drop those gems that are often not readily available to us, right? And then we've also hosted tours and all the things. And so this is just an extension of that. This YouTube channel is an extension of that. And it has a primary focus of building community with like-minded individuals. If that sounds like something that you are interested in, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Also, the way you pay tithes here, the way you say thank you here is to hit the like button. It helps get this information out to the right people. So go ahead, hit that like button. Turn on the notification. We go live every single day. Sometimes the times changes. Well, almost every day the time changes. Yesterday it was 7 o'clock. Today is 8 o'clock. Tomorrow it will be 7 o'clock. Wednesday it's 10 o'clock. Thursday it's 7 o'clock. Friday is TBD. So go ahead and turn on the notification so you get notified when we're going live. You can also, through Thursday, I think I've already posted up through Thursday, the live and the time. So you can go to those particular lives that you're interested in and hit the notify me button, and you'll be notified when we go live. And I think that's pretty much it for the introduction. Oh, and share this information. If you know someone that could benefit from any of the topics that we have discussed already, or the topic that we're going to discuss tonight, go ahead and share this with someone. I've seen so many comments where people have literally changed friends and family members' minds about lots of things. So based on the content, so go ahead and share. Okay, so basically I already talked about the importance, right, of understanding culture shock and understanding that this is a real thing. Like it's a real thing that can really have people stuck, have people in depressed states. And let me also say, whenever I use medical terms, just know I am not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I don't have a license to practice. Everything I am saying is based on me having a travel business for almost 8 years, me being in the multicultural space for over 20 years, and learning from experts, right? So a lot of this information I am just sharing based on my knowledge, right? And so sharing is caring, but please don't take anything as I say as medical advice. So if I say something about depression, please, if you think this is you, go get yourself checked. So I just wanted to put that disclaimer out there. But what it really is, it's a fear of the unknown, right? And it's a fear of the unknown, and the unknown meaning understanding other cultures or other situations or places that you're in. So I gave the example of culture shock when you go away to college. It doesn't matter how much you wanted to go to a specific school, how much you wanted to leave the rules of your parents' house, how much you wanted to be grown or whatever it was. When you go away to college and live in a dorm for the first time, 99.9% of people are going to experience some form of culture shock, right? And so think of that when it comes to traveling. Think of that when it comes to having to uproot yourself, even in your job, in your, if you have to leave one area of being, someone mentioned that they just got laid off after 10 years, going to have to uproot themselves maybe and go someplace that is a whole new experience. Those first few months could be culture shock. And so depending on, your experience. And so, let me take this, this word thing off. So, yeah. So tonight, I hope, this information is, it's I hope this information gives you some gems that you, even if it doesn't affect you, it can help you when you're, chatting with friends, family, loved ones, and the like. And so there's this quote that I always like to say, and I might have shared it here before, but it's by Anthony Bourdain, and many of you may have known him, come across him in the past. But he talks, his exact quote is, "Travel isn't always pretty. It isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it hurts. It even breaks your heart, but that's okay. The journey changes you. It should change you. It leaves marks on your memory, on your consciousness, on your heart, and on your body." And so I think when we talk about culture shock, it falls into the part of it not always being pretty, comfortable, and that sometimes it hurts. Because if you experience someone who has gone away and literally gone into a depressed state because they couldn't, eat the foods that they were used to, or the bathroom situation, or what, all the things that are different someplace else than they are at home, can lead to, some type of shock, right? Or some type of sadness. And so again, these are things that may hold you back. It may hold a family member back, a travel companion back, or someone that's dealing with it that you're with can hold you back, right? And so we want to try to alleviate as much of that as possible. And as Black travelers, we already face so many challenges, right? But we also are some of the most resilient people, and we know how to break barriers and broaden our horizons. And so I hope, these antidotes and this type of information helps you do the same. And so let me see who else is in, because I can't see who's here right now. So let me see. Okay, I see Cynthia made it in. Hey, Cynthia, welcome. Hey, ZS. Hi, oh man, got here last minute. You're good. We're just starting. And so, yeah, so we already talked about, the word cloud and, how to understand it. But I do want to kind of just give a definition of culture shock and exactly what it is. Culture shock is defined as feelings of discomfort occurring when immersed in a new culture. This trauma materializes during the transition between one's home environment and a new foreign culture. Instead of being a linear process, culture shock is experienced in stages. And we'll talk about those stages too. But again, when I say culture shock, think of that in any type of new situation, like I just gave references about if you have to uproot yourself, if you're, if you've been uprooted from a job that you were comfortable at, all of that it's just insert that type of shock, replace the word culture with that type of shock. So the type of shock that we're going to really hone in on today is, the type of shock is the most severe type of culture shock. And we're going to go over that today. There are stages, as we just discussed. And before we get into the stages, it's just crucial to know that this is a natural feeling. It's in our instinct to judge other cultures based on, our own lens, our own POV. It's also natural for us to not quickly adjust to unfamiliar territories, unfamiliar norms of other cultures. And language barriers can also add to that level of uncomfortability. So if you're going someplace where English is not the dominant language, then that can add to some stresses, right? And then we also know it's not always peachy keen everywhere we go. We talked about biases that may exist from not necessarily always the people who are indigenous or native to that land. It could be other tourists who bring their own isms and biases to wherever they move to and then try to place them on you. And so it's not uncommon to feel these things. And again, I don't want anyone to feel that anything that's being said here is a judgment. It's really just acknowledgement and hoping that once you acknowledge something, you can deal with it, right? And so that's what tonight's topic is about. And we need to be fully informed when we're talking about, this stay ready movement. And so, so let's just get into the stages. Like I said, there are different levels of culture shock. Culture shock is actually the most severe, but there are 4 levels before we get to the shock part that you will feel and experience. And so I'll just run through them first, and then I'll give a little definition of what they are. So the first is culture surprise. Second is culture stress. Third is culture irritation. Fourth is culture fatigue. And then finally, it's culture shock. So some people may never make it to the shock stage, right? But there are some nuances when it comes to surprise, stress, irritation, fatigue that can be uncomfortable as well. And so we're going to quickly go over the differences, and then we'll go through what the symptoms can look like. And then finally, we're going to go through what some of the solutions can be and how to handle. So let's quickly talk about culture surprise. Culture surprise. Well, that's the early stage, right? And it happens usually not soon after you get to the new place, right? So it's early in your stay in the new culture when you begin to be aware of superficial and startling differences in culture. So it could be, let me think of a destination. So let's say Cuba. I don't know who's been to Cuba before, but if you come from a cosmopolitan city or even a nice suburb and you go to Cuba, you can immediately become surprised, right? You can immediately become surprised of the culture, the difference in the culture, the difference in how they live, the difference in the architecture or the landscapes or the what appears to be poverty. And that will be like, ooh, that's surprising. So hence culture surprise, right? It's often characterized as the honeymoon phase of the adjustment. And then that's followed by culture stress, which is a mild response, right? You're not anywhere near the shock stage yet, but it's an overload of the stimulus, right? And so you're like, whew, okay, that, and then that, and then that, oh, that's different. Um, at that stage, you may start to become like, oh, this is a lot, and you may start to get annoyed by certain things. Like, let's just say you've already seen in Cuba that the the structures don't look as appeasing as you have become accustomed to in your own country. Then the taxis are all those old cars, right? And none of them have, well, I don't think any of them have air conditioning. I have yet to be in one that had air condition, but it's hot outside. Then you may notice that the food, like, you can't find a fast food restaurant, and you may be really into fast food. Then you may also notice that you can't use your cell phone because the Wi-Fi systems there are totally different. So that's when you start to be like, oh, stress. Okay, there's a lot of things I have to adjust to, and so then it's a lot that you have to take in, right? So that's the stress part. Then there's culture irritation, and when you think of the word irritation, just think about things that simply you get irritated by, right? And so those irritations are usually born from obstacles that you have to face, excuse me. So if you go someplace and you can't use your credit card, or they don't take American Express, and then it's like you start to, and it's one thing on top of the other, and maybe you can't flush your your toilet tissue down the toilet. You have to boil it up and you have to put it in a plastic bag and then put it in the trash. There may be places where you think that excuse me, the people may not. I talked about Greece, right? Where the people don't really respect, or I felt the people didn't really respect your space, and the men were a little, to me, too aggressive in some instances. All of those become like irritations, right? And you become irritable. And so it's just simply a strong negative response to all of those inconveniences, right? And so then after irritation, there's fatigue. This is when this is like, okay, what's going on here? I don't know about all of this. Like, then you start to really be overloaded with the nuances and differences that you are not accustomed to. These are not your norms, and so you truly are feeling like, where am I? Why did I come here? Why did I do this? You're not really feeling, and this could be even in instances. So I'll give another example. These could be instances that may not all be negative. So, personal story. I used to have to be at the Essence Festival every single year for about 17 years. Listen, New Orleans, 4th of July weekend ain't nothing nice. Between the heat, the thunderstorms, the humidity, the tons and tons of people, you can definitely get all of those things: irritated, fatigued, surprised, stressed, all of those things, right? But I have become accustomed to it. I travel a lot. I used to do a lot of events, and so I was accustomed to it. I had travel friends who always wanted to come to the festival, but literally hated everything about New Orleans, including the food. And for anyone who knows anything about New Orleans, they have some really delicious delicacies. But the people who were coming to visit me or spend time there while I was there only liked the food they liked, right? They only liked the hot sauce that they liked. They didn't like the seasonings that New Orleans is known for. And so, and of course, combine that with the heat and having to get around and the walking and all of that. I've experienced all of these levels of from cultural irritation and cultural surprise to cultural shock. And so it can be taxing on the person that has to entertain or be around those people. I've had people that came and was like, I have to go home. It's too hot here. I have to get a flight and go home. Like, not even really attempting to find any happiness in their situation. And so it's very important that, I'm going to say, back in my younger days, I don't know how tolerable I was for culture shockness or people who experience that. I just saw it as people who were not open to new things, or not open to trying new foods, or not open to experiencing other cultures, and thought it was like a superiority complex. And so it kind of irritated me. Quite honestly, it bothered me. And it wasn't until probably maybe 10 years ago when I started understanding, like, oh, wow, not everyone's the same. Like, even for people who like can't solo travel, like, I never will understand that. But that's also because I used to have to travel for business so much. And I also enjoy my company, and I also know how to talk to people and meet people and all that stuff. So I'm not an introvert, right? So when people would be like, oh, I can't do this because no one's gonna come with me, I couldn't understand that. Like, my mind didn't I couldn't wrap my mind around that, because ever since I was in my 20s, I had to travel for business and often be at hotels. And you think if I have an expense account, I'm not going to the nice restaurant and having dinner? I don't care if I'm by myself or with somebody else. And so that's how I was always thinking. So anyway, back to New Orleans. So I never really could understand that. And it wasn't until about 10 years ago that I started, when I started with this travel business, when I started planting the seed with the travel business and going to travel conferences, that I learned more about this thing called culture shock, right? And so anyway, so did we get to the fatigue yet? So the fatigue is like, listen, I don't want to be here. And the person's ability to actually function normally starts to rapidly decline. It starts to decline to the point where I just said they may want to leave. They may want to go home. They're like, I can't get with this. This is, I just don't want to be here anymore. And that can last, it can start anytime after arrival. It doesn't have to start when you're first there. And it may not start on the second, third, or fourth day. It may start fifth, sixth, seventh day. And if you're with somebody who's experiencing that fatigue level, know that often the next phase is the shock level, right? And the shock level is, not only are you unable to really function, you become in what I would deem, and I hate using this word because it is a medical term, but it could be a depressed state. It's like your body is in contradiction to what you're doing, right? So the shock, that's like the shock. It's like when you're like, shock can manifest itself in so many different ways. And we could, talk about the definition of actual shock. But if you go back to the actual definition of cultural shock, it's feelings of discomfort occurring when immersed in new culture. This trauma. Okay, so it's a traumatic experience, right? The shock is a traumatic experience. It materializes during the transition between one home's environment and new foreign culture. And again, so the shock is trauma. Think of trauma, and we think about childhood trauma and stuff like that. This is what the culture shock can look like. And so quickly just going over, like I said, it's like a contradiction between what you are accustomed to and what you are experiencing, right? And the psychological conflict that's happening. And you're trying to maintain yourself in this new environment where you are feeling traumatic responses. And so everything can happen, from, the annoyance to You will stop speaking, you will stop engaging, you may just hide in your room and never want to, come out until it's time to leave. It's more than an annoyance. It's very like it's very, I'm trying to think of the word where you're stuck, like where you're just stuck, and it'll come to me later. But at that, once you get to this point, you really are at a point where something needs to happen. A change needs to happen. Now, the change can be sticking it out, right? That can be a change where you're like battling through it and sticking it out and trying to find ways to get through it. Let's just you know what, before I get into my little personal stories again, let me tell you what some of the symptoms of culture shock can be. And so you will notice them, or maybe you've experienced them, but you feel helpless and dependent. There's extreme homesickness. You feel an extreme, not this that you're just homesick. Oh, I've had enough, I'm ready to go. It's an extreme level of homesickness. Disorientation and isolation. That's what I was talking about, when you'll just be like, I'm going to just not leave the room. I'm not going to leave the Airbnb, whatever. You just don't want to leave. Depression and sadness. Hyper irritability, right? So you're not just irritable anymore, you're hyper irritable. And that can lead to anger and hostility. You also can face sleep and eating disturbances. So some people may overeat, some people may undereat, some people may oversleep, some people may have insomnia. Excessive critical reactions to the actual culture that you are in, and or stereotyping. So that can be a form of culture shock. If you go to, Mexico, and you're there with culture shock, you may start to look at them as the reasons why your home, your home country is the way it is, and you start stereotyping. You may start indulging in things to try to ease whatever those feelings are. So everything from drinking to other things, right? Just to kind of escape, so to speak. You may start to feel all these hypochondriac feelings, like, oh, I don't feel well. Oh, my head hurts. Oh, it may all be in your head though, right? But you may start to feel mal-ease and blame, and the reason is usually due to you feeling the shock of the different cultures. And of course, with depression, that could lead to loss of focus and ability to even complete any of the list of things that you had to do. So rather it was going on tours, rather it was taking a language class, rather whatever it is, right? These symptoms of culture shock can manifest itself that way. And so before I go on, because I feel like I've been talking, I don't even know how long I've been talking. Let's just see if there's any questions. Hey, Just One, good to see you. Tony Africa is back from Kenya in the building, Mr. Kenya. Hey, Miss P. Not being funny, but this is how I feel at my new job. Great company, but yeah, but there's something. Novelty has worn off, and now, yeah. Listen, culture shock period, when you're changing environments, no matter what it is or what category it would fall under, can have a huge effect on your body when you get to the shock level. So, once the honeymoon stage is over, once you realize that, oh, I don't know if I'm vibing with this. Yeah, it can be challenging. And so I would hate to be on this channel just talking about, because I know I posted a post posted yesterday of me and Playa del Carmen, and just talking about how great it is. And, I try my best to level set expectations, But I wanted this to be a topic, a standalone topic, because it's real. And truth be told, for people who are interested in moving abroad, even if you don't experience culture shock, you will come across people in your community and you're like, what the heck? Like, what's wrong with these people? But it could easily be that they have experienced culture shock. I have met so many people. The places I visited or have stayed in or got my residency in Mexico, all except Guadalajara, are very transient cities. Guadalajara less so. Um, but a lot of them are transient, or some of the people who transition back to the US is because they cannot adjust to this new culture, this new lifestyle. The same way I'm in Mexico, just loving mostly everything about it. There are other people that come and just don't like or dislike the same things that I like about it. And so I said, I have to do a standalone live to talk about culture shock and the truth about being Black and abroad. Like, we didn't even talk about like some of the places where you may, experience racism. And we're not going to do that because we know that exists, right? And so that's not the only experience that you will have that could lead you to culture shock. We talked about the 5 worst places, I think it is, for Black Americans to move. And culture shock is part of those places. Like, culture shock would fall under one of the reasons why those places made the list. And so China, India, and others. So you could go check that video if you haven't already. It's part of the playlist. But yeah, so I want to always be conscious that I'm not just making it seem like it's, all good all the time, for everyone, because that's not the case. And so, yeah. So if you're just coming in, please pay your tithes and hit the like button. I'd appreciate it. I'm going to get through the solutions, right, on or how people can learn to cope, and then we'll go to questions. And then please, yes, if you have a question, I see some questions coming through. I'm just going to get through the solutions first, or some of the suggested solutions first, and then we'll get to the Q&A. So when we talk about how do we deal with culture shock, right? Well, first of all, you have to acknowledge it, right? You have to acknowledge that something is not right. Something is going on. Don't try to fight it, right? Don't try to, don't try to sell yourself that everything is okay. There's a whole bunch of ways to cope with culture shock, but you can't cope with it until you acknowledge that there is, in fact, with almost anything, right? You have to first acknowledge that there's an issue, there's a challenge, there's a problem, right? And that it's normal. Like, culture shock is normal. Like I said, I gave the experience of culture shock when I went to college. My first semester, it was the college I dreamed of. I thought I would go to college and wouldn't come home until the end of the year. Child, I was home every weekend. I was home every single weekend for the first semester, I want to say. No, maybe longer than that, because my boyfriend was still in New York. So yeah, probably the first year. If not every week in the second semester, it was at least once or twice a month. And so that was a form of culture shock. And so you have to acknowledge that something is right. I should not have been coming home every week. It's 4-hour drive away. It wasn't like 30 minutes away. And so, so that's first. They also recommend, and these are physicians, clinical physicians that deal with this. And like I said, I've been to quite a few travel conferences where they talk about, this, and they talk about it not specifically, but also as it relates to women, because a lot of cultures, right, that we travel to, a lot of places we travel to, their culture is misogynistic. It's, still very, the man is the head, the lead. And when you travel as a woman, you have to know these things and you have to prepare yourself for these things. So the conferences that I went to, there have been experts from, from psychology, what is it, psychologists, psychiatrists, psychologists, and therapists to help explain and share how to cope. So, first, you acknowledge it. Two, if you feel that you are not, this may be your first trip, or you're not a good traveler, like someone who nitpicks and thinks about home all the time, then bring something from home to help you out, right? So, even if it's something as simple as photos, right? Family photos or your favorite. Now we all bring, our not clothes and stuff like that. But maybe if you're going to be in a Airbnb with a kitchen and you're going to do some cooking, if there is a favorite pot that you just cannot deal with not having, then go ahead. If you, like for me, sometimes I travel and it boggles my mind how they don't, and not boggles my mind. One thing I don't like is not every place puts cream in their coffee, right? I like cream in my coffee. So I'm gonna bring some cream from home to make sure that I have cream in my coffee for at least the first part of the stay, right? And sometimes it's hard to find the creams that you like. So bring stuff from your home that will make you feel comfortable and remove some of the things that will irritate you, some of those things that will stress you out. You can mitigate the number of things by being prepared, right? And especially if you're going for an extended amount of time. I know people that bring their favorite coffee. So if you like Dunkin' Donuts coffee, you bring a pack of Dunkin' Donuts coffee with you and a mini coffee maker. Like these are the type of things, and I keep referencing coffee, but there's, you can take it and apply it to what works for you, right? Also, so we talked about acknowledging that there is something wrong, but before you leave, you could pre-plan. You can know that this may be something that is out of your comfort zone and plan accordingly. So bring things that will bring you peace. Also, find places that can bring you comfort while you're away, right? And I'm going to use coffee again. So if you find yourself getting out of sorts, getting out of whack, if there's something, let's just say the speed at your Airbnb, the Wi-Fi speed at your Airbnb is not to your liking, find a co-working space, find a Starbucks, right? Find some place. There's one place in Playa del Carmen that I like to go to, and it's not often crowded, but I like the blend mix of people that come. And it's owned by Bob Marley's son. I think it's Rohan Marley. And it's Rohan Marley Coffee Shop. And it's just a nice vibe. Like I like the vibe, I like the colors, I like the coffee, I like the people that come. So if I'm ever feeling like, oh, I just need a little pick me up, a little safe space, then I go there, right? I like going there, period. But sometimes, it's just like, oh, okay, I need a little pick me up for whatever reason. I'll go there, and I've never had a bad experience there. Okay. So yeah, find some place that's comfortable. It could be a museum, whatever you're into, find that place. Most places have that place. You just have to find that place and immerse yourself there, right? Because those are the type of things that can bring you peace, right? So you want to remove as many of the stresses as possible. So if you are supposed to go on some tour, but you're realizing like, listen, I'm not liking these people that are on this tour group that I'm part of, remove yourself from that and find some place that will, bring you happiness. You don't have to be stressed out when you're away. You really don't. And then, like I said, when you're acknowledging that you are experiencing something, it doesn't have to be corrected that day, right? You don't have to find all the solutions that day. You can, little by little, again, depending on how long you're going to be there, because I will say, in 2019, I went to Colombia. This wasn't my first time in Cartagena, but this was my first time with two friends, childhood friends. And the first day we got there, we were going to get something to eat. And we were there was 3 other Black women, young women, who were coming towards us. And, we did the hi, how you doing, where you're from, this and that. But we noticed one girl, she had a mean mug, like she didn't want to talk to nobody, this and that. So we're talking, they told us they had just came from this great restaurant, and it was telling us about the food. And the girl with the mean mug was like, it was not great. And so she had an attitude. And so one of the girls was like, this has been her since we got here. All she wants to do is eat Kentucky Fried Chicken every day. And so I made a reference in the video that I did from Playa del Carmen about Kentucky Fried Chicken, because that was my story. Like, so her and her friends were having issues, but it was clear to me that she was dealing with culture shock. She didn't like the fish or the rice or the rice and peas or the plantain. She didn't like any of that. She didn't want any Colombian food. She wanted food that she was comfortable with. But her friends wanted to experience the culture. So that was a headbutting that I'm not sure how it ended, because they had been there a few days already, and I think they only had like a day or 2 left. But yeah, so again, acknowledging, giving yourself time that it's going to get better, and trying to work at making it better. Like, don't just lock yourself in a room. So that's going to be the next one. Stay active and explore, right? Don't just lock yourself in a room and, try to just push yourself, even because not 9 times out of 10, I won't say that, but more often than not, it's just a lot of times that you have not ran into the right person, the right event, the right things to get you out of that funk. Now, a lot of times also, not a lot, some of the times it's also, you could just be a homebody that doesn't like to do much. And this was too much for you to get into this time. And so maybe you may take a L on this trip, learn some lessons, and maybe try again someplace less different, right? More like what you're used to. Find someplace more like the comforts that you are used to. So if you like places that are 60 degrees, because you live someplace that the average temperature is 60 degrees, go someplace where the average temperature is 60 degrees. Go someplace where you don't have to try to speak a different language if that's going to irritate you the next time. So stay active, explore. You can often push yourself out of that if, you're just not that introvert homebody that's who you are. Because there are some people that are like that. So you can often start by just exploring small, right? A gym. Like if you're into working out, go to a gym, find a gym. And oftentimes you'll find somebody of like-minded that you can, even if it's like lift weights together or, spot each other or whatever, try something small when you're exploring, but don't try to rush it. Don't try to overdo it. Find a project to do, right? So if you are someplace and you're like, okay, everybody here speaks Spanish or everybody here speaks Italian, and I feel out the loop, go try to take an Italian class, or try to take a Spanish class, or try to take a Portuguese class, or whatever, while you are there. Like, there are schools in a lot of major cities around the world where you can find a 1 day, 2 day, 1 week, 2 week language class. And so that can help offset some of the angst you have about not being able to speak a language. Always, and I do mean always, try to keep an open mind. Like, have that cultural curiosity. Because just like Anthony Bourdain, and that's why I started off with that quote, it may not always be pretty, right? It may even hurt. It's not always comfortable, but it will leave an indelible memory on your consciousness. And so a lot of times, and I often say, because he said it as well, it will change you. if you just give it a chance, right? If you just try to forge ahead, push through, give yourself time. Um, like I said, find a project, keep an open mind. Now, making new friends is not for for everybody. And I've learned that, through my travels for many, many years. Like some people just are introverts, socially awkward, um, different reasons, right? But there are so many ways to try to make new friends that you don't have to be this social butterfly. It's only through isolation, right? When you start to isolate yourself from people, that you will enhance those traumatic feelings and those feelings of not um, wanting to be here or depression. And so, um, try to put yourself in. So when I do, so let me go back to when I to Mexico. So when I plan bopping trips, exploration trips, there's always fun activities. This last time we were zip lining through the jungle. We were zip lining. We definitely did the morning sunrise, the beaches and stuff like that. But there's always going to be some type of, it could be as extreme as you want it to be or not extreme as you want it to be, but it's going to be some type of fun activity to help try to, you know, get you to shake off whatever angst that you're feeling. And I try to plan those in the beginning because a lot of times that's the icebreaker that many people need. And even when you do group trips, people will come on group trips and not want to engage with the other people on the group. Like these are people who are, unfortunately, I think, and I don't want to say unfortunately because there's no judgment, but haven't been exposed, right? Or again, just maybe introverts or socially awkward or whatever. So I always try to do icebreakers, but you can do icebreakers on your own. You can find, if you like to ATV or if you like to do things that may not be the norm, find those things, right? Find those things that you like to do and try to do them in those countries. And you will find like-minded people that you can cultivate new relationships with. Even if they're temporary relationships, you'll be able to cultivate new relationships. And also definitely keep in touch with your friends and family at home. If you are feeling like, now I don't mean be on the phone with them all day, every day, right? But I do mean make it a point that if you're missing them, go ahead, reach out, and get that dopamine, right? Get that hit of family that your body's craving. Because travel's not always easy. It's not always pretty. And sometimes it hurts, right? But if you can lessen that feeling, the hurt, the pain, and all of that, then go ahead and do it. And so those are just simple solutions on how you can try to deal with culture shock and feelings of maybe loneliness or, isolation and all of that. There are solutions to that. Just know that you don't have to suffer in silence is what I'm saying. You can acknowledge it and then act on it. It's all about the execution. Once you acknowledge that this is indeed off, there's something not right with this. Now, at the beginning stages, the first 1, 2, and 3, you can probably power through that, right? But if you're at 4 and 5 level of culture shock, then yeah, you need to start taking action so that you can at least have a decent experience. And everything ain't for everybody. You may be in a destination that just doesn't sit right with your spirit, but you can still power through that and just know. So the next time you'll know what you don't want. Know where you don't want to go. Know who you don't want to be around. And so yeah, so that's pretty much the A to Z on what is being in culture shock, how does it manifest itself, and what are some of the solutions. And so hopefully some of that was helpful. So hopefully some of that you can share with others or take with you in whatever area of life that you may feel those things that could be defined as culture shock. And so I'm going to go to questions now. And if you're watching this later, let me know if you've ever experienced culture shock and where were you? And if you're watching it now, I want to know too. We're not going to be here that much longer, but if you can let me know. Hey, Kiki B, how do you decide when to stick it out for a little longer or leave and see if a different place would be more suited for you? So everyone's going to be different, right? So it depends upon, I would say, this is what I would do. If I'm going to check for a potential place to live, if it's anything less than 8 weeks, then you really weren't checking to see if it's someplace you could live. You were just on vacation, right? And so I'm going to always stick it out for at least 8 weeks. And that's my minimum. Some people have a 3-month minimum, right? But 8 weeks will give you, you could possibly experience different seasons, like different temperatures. So if when you got there, it was 80 degrees or 90 degrees as the high, at towards the 8th week, you may see some 70 degrees or 60, depending on where it is. So you're going to experience potentially seasons, right? You're going to experience probably so much that the city has to offer. So from restaurants to outdoor or indoor activities to shopping to, there's just so much that you can experience in 8 weeks that you can't experience in 4 weeks. The first week that you're someplace, you're just like this, right? And you're getting your bearings, right? And so I would say anything less than 8 weeks, you are on vacation and you shouldn't make a complete judgment about that place. Can you share some specific culture shocks you had in Mexico, by the way? So I've been going to Mexico for a very, very long time, since in my 20s, right? And so let's see, have I had any recent culture shocks? I will say most of my culture shocks, and I said it at the top of this, have been reverse culture shocks, me coming back. So I used to be fluent in Spanish. I used to be fluent all the way through, I'll say 3 years after college. I was fluent in Spanish. You don't use it, you lose it. So I'm able to read in Spanish. I'm able to, if you speak slow enough, I can catch the phrases. Now, if you're speaking really fast, we're gonna have a problem. But so Mexico may not be the best example. So I gave an example with Greece. I had a culture shock there. And I don't know that it was a culture shock because I wasn't like, oh, I got to go home. And I mentioned that in a few videos, but it was just how the men are very machismo. And I hadn't experienced that yet, right? And so I saw that they would push you out the way to get off this, because we took the train when we were in Athens. They will knock you out the way, woman, child. It didn't matter at that time. Now, other people have commented that they loved Greece and they didn't experience that. I did. And I always investigate when I come back. And I spoke to someone who was from Greece, and he said, oh, that's how they treat everyone. They treat their own citizens like that because they have a superiority complex. They think that they invented everything from, math to to alphabet and all of that. So that was pretty much, I can't say that I've had a culture shock in Mexico. But I've been going to Mexico and it's always been one of my favorite destinations. So when it comes to the people, I can't really say that I've had any culture shock there. The year 2020, I would not come out my house unless I was in my garden. Oh, wow, Janet. Yeah, that, those years did a number on us. How long, hey, Kiki, how long would you recommend sticking it out before deciding to move on? Oh, didn't we just do that? 2 months. 2 months. I would give myself 8 weeks before, because I have seen it happen where I've gone someplace and the first 3 days, I'm like, oh, this is trash. And then by the 7th day, I don't want to go home. So that's what I'm saying. So I would say if I'm looking to move someplace, even if it's for, part-time, half the year, whatever, no less than 2 months. I would personally say 3, but no less than 2 months, because I know 3 months may just be too long for people. But I would say no less than 2 months. How long did it take you to get used to the toilet paper change? I think Panama has it. And I think that and not picking up the trash regularly will be my main adjustment. Okay, so the toilet paper change, you can go to, they have Costco. Well, so in Mexico, they have Costco, they have Sam's, they have quality toilet paper. And, if you go to the little TN, that you could get some cheap toilet paper. So Mexico, I didn't have issues with toilet paper, but I will also say when I'm packing to go, I pack toilet paper. I pack toilet paper, but the places I've stayed, I haven't had issues with. Well, okay, I didn't have issues with toilet paper with the first Airbnb I stayed in Playa del Carmen, but I will say this was a culture shock. When I booked the Airbnb, it mentioned nothing about not being able to flush toilet paper down the toilet. So I'm there day one. I go to the bathroom, flush toilet paper down the toilet. I wake up in the middle of the night, go to the bathroom. Or I won't even say it was the middle of the night. I would say it was early in the morning. Let's say it was like 6 a.m. And the floor is wet in the bathroom. And I'm like, what the heck? So I messaged, the host on Airbnb, and I'm thinking it was a she because that's who the picture was. And she's like, oh, you cannot flush toilet paper down the toilet. And I'm like, well, when were you going to tell me this? Like, and so that was strange. But if that was the only problem, I still would have stayed in that Airbnb. I left because sliding glass doors would not close all the way. So it was about a gap about this big for the sliding glass doors, which meant mosquitoes could enter no problemo. And so I ended up leaving that Airbnb because of that. But I didn't have any issues with toilet paper. And like I said, I pack my preferred toilet paper when I leave anyway. But I do that wherever I go. Wherever I go. That could be domestic. And if I'm going to somebody's house and I don't know what type of toilet paper they have, I'm packing my own toilet paper. But they picked up where I've been, they picked up the trash well. The only place I think there was some place that stayed in Chiang Mai. Well, it wasn't my neighborhood, but we were walking and we noticed garbage in Chiang Mai, Thailand, that had just been, which was weird because where we were staying, it wasn't like that. So, yeah. So reverse culture shock. Yeah, that is, and we'll talk about that later, but it can take me a while to readjust back to everything, to the sensory overload from when I come back. And then the what do you call it, like in New York, you definitely have to keep your head on swivel, right? And so that's what we say, we keep our head on swivel. And so yeah, that can be a hard adjustment. And so I definitely believe that you get over it, right? It's the same with culture shock. Like I worked my way through reverse culture shock. Many people can work their way through culture shock. I just don't want culture shock to be something that stops people from doing the next thing. So if you go someplace where you experience culture shock, try someplace else. Figure out exactly what happened, what went wrong, what put you in that place, and then try someplace else. And try, because you will probably find someplace that you're like, oh, I feel like I'm at home, and so, yeah. Hey, Christine R. Had to order a copy of your mama's death certificate. Didn't realize it would have me feeling away. So, so an emotional day, but I got it done. Needed for Panama. I know that feeling. So my prayers are truly with you. And you just never know when it's going to hit. Yeah. But your mama is looking over you. You got it done. One step closer to Panama. Mama's still going to look out, I'm telling you. Oh, good evening. Hey, Anita. So is it the brand of tissue rather than a pipe issue with the flushing? It's the pipes. It's not the brand. They just some places that every place else that I've stayed since then, you can flush toilet paper down the toilet. But if you are in a older building, and this building wasn't even that old, like I guess it was older than could handle toilet paper flushing, but it's not the brand. It's not the brand, it's the actual pipe. So when they say, so if you go to like a public bathroom in a restaurant, most of them you do not flush the toilet paper. I have not seen one yet where you flush the toilet paper down the toilet. They have a trash bag and they have a sign, do not flush toilet paper down the toilet. And so, but the apartments that I've stayed in have been pretty modern since then. And you could flush. Listen, I look for places where you can flush toilet down the toilet paper, down the toilet bowl, just simply because it's habit, right? I'm sure I can eventually adjust if I needed to, but why risk clogging up a pipe and, harming someone's home if I don't have to? That's just one thing I don't have to think about. So it's the pipes. You may have answered this, but how do I deal with the water in Mexico? You mean not drinking it? It's easy. I mean, buying water is standard. A lot of people get water delivery. One day I'm going to show the places that I've stayed. I'm going to put together like a collage of the different places that I've stayed. Most of the places that I have stayed for well, I won't say most. Let's just say about 60% of the places that I've stayed, they have water delivery as part of their package because they know that, unless you are Mexican, you're not drinking the water. And so if you're in one of the major cities, most people either get water delivery or they purchase, their bottled waters, or they purchase the big gallon thing that they could fill up at these places. They have places where you could go and literally get your 5-gallon thing water filled up. Or you can have it delivered. DD is like the Uber Eats shop type thing, or where they go to the store and they can bring you whatever you want. So you're gonna drink bottled water, or not tap water, I should say. And so it's simple and inexpensive. Hey Patricia, welcome back. Yes, drinking. But I buy it here where I live in America. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you don't really have to here, but yes. So most people listen. I'm not going to advertise, and I shouldn't use plastic, but it's just easy for if I'm going out and I don't want to carry a big old thing. This just fits in my purse. So, exactly. I drink bottled water too. Or sometimes if I'm making like when I make my tea, I boil the water or whatever. So, but yeah, I don't boil the water. And that's for everything, for coffee. And some people say they don't wash their face with the water. I've never had a problem, but I think they're worried about it getting in their eyes or whatever. But I'm like, but if you take a shower, I don't know. So I wash my face. I even brush my teeth. No, I just started using bottled water last winter. But before then, I was using tap water to brush my teeth, wash my face. But somebody shared that you can get parasites because you're literally putting in your mouth and you can swallow. So anyway, so now I use bottled water to brush my teeth, but I use tap water to shower, wash my face, I send my clothes out to be washed, and I'm sure that's regular water, right? So yeah. And again, it's so inexpensive. Nope, not a myth. And that's with mostly every place when I'm in wherever I travel. I've never drank when I was in Morocco, I didn't drink any tap water. I'm just trying to think of the most. Thailand, I drink bottled water. China, Spain, I never drink tap water in other places. I just answered that, Lorenda. So I used to, when I first started going back, boycotting winter in 2022, I was using tap water. And then wasn't until winter 2023 that I stopped because someone said I should. And parasites, you could get parasites easier that way. Oh, so the water in Panama isn't an issue? Do tell. What do they why? Like is it because it's just filtered or something? I avoid eating raw foods in the US. So I've had sushi in Mexico, but these are hotspot restaurants where the turnover is really quick. So I'm not going to places that I don't know. Just like I wouldn't go to any place here in New York if it wasn't a well-known sushi place that had high turnover. But yeah, I've had, sushi in Mexico many times, but I always look up the best places, the rankings, and then I inquire. Usually if you go to, so here's a hack, a gym. Even if you're not staying at a 5-star, 7-star resort, if you ever call them, most of them have English speaking attendants, right? So whoever you call, I wouldn't text them, I would call them. Listen, I'm thinking about coming and staying for a week at your location. I have a restrictive, I'm a pescatarian. So I'm a pescatarian, right? I'm a pescatarian and I love sushi. What sushi restaurants are near your location that you would recommend for your guests? But always look for a 5-star and up resort, because they're not going to send their guests any place that would make them sick or that has bad reviews. They just wouldn't. And so for me, when I'm there, I'll go to someone who I know works at an elite restaurant. So one of my favorite restaurants in Playa del Carmen is called Luma, Luma. It's on 38, Playa 38. You talk about some of the freshest fish you will ever have. And I could show you a picture of he will tell me all the best places to go, the best places to stay away from. And that includes the local rest, like if you want tacos, taquito, whatever, he's going to tell you. I'm going to pull up his picture right now. His name is Angel. Greatest resource, one of the greatest resources I have. So let me do, I'm going to show you who he is. So yeah, so find a high-end restaurant, make friends with someone there, go to a high-end resort, ask them and find out the best places to eat. But I've never had any issues with food in Mexico. When I was younger, I did. So I'm not going to lie. When I was younger, but I wasn't paying attention. And I probably was drinking the water. I don't know. Those were party days. And so, you get dehydrated in that sun. I may have accidentally had some regular ice or drink the water or something like that. But, I'm trying to find his picture. Yeah, so I'm going to look at a couple more questions. So if you have questions, let me know. Put a Q in front of it. But I'm trying to find my picture of Angel. Oh, I have so many pictures. That's the problem. Way too many pictures. And I don't know what dates I took these pictures. But he is such a good guy. And let me just show you, this is the community. Let me get to the questions. I get so distracted, and then I'm here 2 hours. And so Panama City, not sure about the outskirts. Oh, okay. So in Panama City, you could drink the water. Okay. Oh, welcome, Radical Health Series. Good, glad you made it. Yeah, I'm just trying to find the picture of me and My angel. But I'm telling you, there are so many cool people. So this was another cool person. We had just booked our excursion. Well, we were just going to our excursion. I don't know if you could see this. But anyway, the guy that's in the back, he became like one of my best resources while I was there. He is originally from Mexico, but he's lived all over the world. Long story short, he travels a lot. He's a I don't want to call him his family has money. Let's just say that. So he's been traveling for a while. Talk to people, get the best resources, you will be fine, like especially in Mexico. How about hair care? Are there any hair care products that you use in Mexico? So believe it or not, Sally's is big in Mexico. My favorite hair product I bring with me is TGIN, or As I Am. And so I bring mine with me. But most of the people that I know that live there, and then again, I'm not there for like 9 months at a time, right? So, but there are people that I know there that use like the Shea Moistures and stuff like that, which can be found at, and I have pictures, you know what, I'm gonna post those pictures in my community tab. I took pictures in the Sally's there to show that there are actually, you could buy, depending on where you are. In Guadalajara, you can buy like hair, like if you want to do braids and hair extensions and all of that, you those are easier to find. And what was I say? Yeah, so there's a whole, what other products? So there, I know I saw Shea Moisture, I saw Cantu, there were other ones that are, Black products. But I bring mine with me. So let's see. I want to start in Mexico, but because of my mom, Panama would be a softer. Wait a minute. Didn't you just, are you the one who said you had to get your mom's death certificate? But because of your mom passing? Oh, okay. You're not taking, okay. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm reading that wrong. I'm sorry. Panama would be a softer landing for me, but during rainy season, I'll go to Mexico for 3 months. Okay. Well, make sure it's not the same, or wherever you go in Mexico, it's because, depending on where you are, both sides get hurricanes. So there's hurricane seasons there. So just, yeah, that was a good question about the hair. I think that's what you were saying, Chinky Neely. Would you recommend living for your first visiting? Would you recommend living for your first visit, living in the city or outskirts for a person that likes outside the city? If you're not a city person, then make sure it's like a nice pueblo, like a nice town, not too far out where you're not gonna, unless you are fluent. If you're fluent in the language, wherever you're going, then fine. But if you're not, you don't want to live too far out, because you'll have less help. You'll have less people to help you communicate. And so I think, so, okay, if you're in, let's say you fly in, let's just say Playa del Carmen is too much of a city for you, like the town, Playa. There's places like Puerto Morales. There's places like the other side of the highway in Playa del Carmen, which is less busy, that people tend to live. People with families live there. Like, I don't like Mexico City. It's too busy for me. And so I get that, but I'm also not going to go any place where I can't find people at the ready that speak English, and are kind of encouraged to speak English or try to speak English because it's, financially beneficial for them. So yeah. It depends upon what your needs are. Just know you want to find community. Make sure, like, there are a lot of people who live in a place called Lake Chapala / Ahihi, which is outside of Guadalajara, which is the major city. It's a huge expat community. So places like that, I say yes to. It's not a big city. It's literally on a lake, but not someplace too on the outskirts. In which part of Mexico? Hey, Val, do I live? So my home base, I would consider, so I have 2 homes in Mexico, 2 home bases, Guadalajara and Playa del Carmen. So Playa del Carmen is great because it's so walkable. And it's on the beach, right? I love the beach. I love the ocean and everything that comes with it. Amazing rooftop pool situations. If you want to, go and work on a different rooftop, they have different rooftop hotels that you can go for a day, pay a nominal fee, eat, do some work, or just lounge, whatever. So I love Playa del Carmen for that. I love Guadalajara because some of the conveniences that Playa doesn't have, so their malls are amazing. They have PF Chang's, they have Cheesecake Factory, they have, some of the major modern conveniences, their movie theaters. Oh my gosh. They make ours look horrible. Like the shopping there, like you have high end. I did a video like from Guadalajara. Oh my gosh, all the luxury brands, not all, but Rolex, Christian Dior, all of those. And so, not that I'm encouraging people to go shop there, but then when you have stores like that, you have people that live there that can afford those type of places. They have great restaurants. So I don't want to say bi-coastal because Guadalajara is not on the coast, but Guadalajara and Playa del Carmen are the 2 places that I will continue to spend time in. Is there a decent expat hospital in Playa del Carmen? So when you say expat hospital, no such thing. Are there decent hospitals in Playa del Carmen? Absolutely. There's too many retirees living there from both Canada and the US for there not to be great hospital care and doctor care. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, I skipped Christine. Did I see the interview? The train is. Oh, you talking about? Yeah, I talked about that yesterday. I only spoke about it briefly, but yeah, he's letting you know. Like, listen, we could stay and act dumb if we want to, or not plan, right? And so let me just underscore again. Please get your passports. If you need to renew your passports, please renew your passports. Make sure you have all your important documentation from your birth certificate to your social security card, all of your health printouts and your assets. Like, so if you have a deed to a house, all of your brokerage account, all of that, get all of that for the ready. You just never know. You want to stay ready. He's already said that first they're going after, there was something else that came out today and I can't recall right now, but first they're going after the criminals, and then they're going after everyone else. And then when it was asked, well, who's everyone else? He said, everyone else that's not a criminal. That means, and he's also taking away birthright citizenship. So even if you were born here, but your family, listen, I hate getting into this, but if your family wasn't, your parents weren't, you can also get kicked out as well. And so, and again, that's not going to stop with the Mexicans that they're trying to send back across the border. Trust me, there's a whole lot more people that he's talking about getting rid of. And so we just need to have our stuff in order. And that's what this whole movement is about. Please, please, please. And I want us to eliminate as much as the fear as possible, including, the real emotion of culture shock. Like we need to start knowing that that's a thing, start understanding that we may experience that if we do decide to move abroad or move anyplace else, but having the tools to manage it and deal with it. So do you rent 2 homes at a time or move all your stuff between 2 home bases? So I'm not there full time yet. So I'll alter. So like the winter of 2022, I was in Guadalajara, right? Guadalajara for the winter, the boycott winter. But earlier in 2022, I was in Playa del Carmen for a few months, then Guadalajara for a few months. After I spend New York, I spend summers in New York. I love New York in the summertime. I'm here every summer. And I don't see that changing in the immediate future unless things drastically change here. So I'm there. I'm in Mexico winter and then part of the spring. Winter, come back, then go back for part of the spring leading into summer. And so I'll alternate. I'll do Guadalajara, Playa del Carmen, Guadalajara, or if I'm there for an extended amount of time, let's say 3 months or more, I may spend a few weeks in Guadalajara, the rest of the time in Playa del Carmen, and vice versa. So so it's not packing up a home. I don't own a home there. I rent. So it's uncomplicated. So yeah, so that was the last question. If you're in here before we leave, go ahead, hit that like button. Appreciate it. It helps get this out to more people. If you need any of the resources that we have available, check the description below, including coaching calls or Mexican residency consultation calls. All of those are available. They'll always be in the description. Also, we're back tomorrow where we're talking about, so just so you know, I am definitely trying to stay ahead with posting because I have so many content. I have so much content to get through. And so me trying to remember is not a good thing. Well, Wednesday is our weekly Q&A. So come and we might be celebrating the big 10K on Wednesday. We'll see. I don't even know what my numbers are today, but I know we're not that far from 10K. So we may be celebrating the big 10K. Also, Thursday, we have a guest, and that announcement will officially go up by Wednesday. We have a guest speaker who's going to share more about her experience as someone who got to get away, basically. And so more about that by Wednesday. And then tomorrow we are talking about, I'm stalling. Staying hyper-focused, how to stay hyper-focused, how to stay serious, how to do the things that we need to do. So again, we're talking about taking it 1 week at a time. But again, I don't want y'all to just come here and listen. I want y'all to act. And whatever that action looks like for y'all, I'm fine with. So whatever that is, but less planning, more doing is my motto. Accountability, intention and accountability were my words for the year. And so I want to make sure that we are staying hyper focused and what that looks like. How do we stay hyper focused? And so let me see if there's anything else. So I said tomorrow's about it's time to stay hyper focused. so we can stay ready, so we don't have to get ready. Wednesday is the weekly Q&A community chat where we're going to review, and then we'll review some current events. So there's some things that happened in the news like today that I want to talk about. And then Thursday is our guest speaker, and then more to come on Friday. And so let me see. I had to go check to see. Okay. Bye, WM. Thank you for coming. You said it right, JZD ATV. I missed that. Maybe. But yeah, so anyway, thank everyone for coming. Hit the like button. If you have any questions or comments after this live is over, put them in the comment section. But more importantly, come on Wednesday, because I'll be sure to hear them and see them on Wednesday. I might not hear or see them today or under the comments, because we're almost 10,000 people. And so I appreciate all of my gemstones, the Gem Nation. Let's stay ready so we don't have to get ready. And until tomorrow night at 7, I'll see you then. Take care.